Well, welcome everybody to the Neutral Zone. I'm your host, DJ Grom. I bet you're all wondering what's going on now, right? Total mouthful. Well, let me tell you, my friends. My buddy here who's live with me, his name is Mark Sargent. 6 months ago, he set off on a path he didn't expect. Certainly it went weird. Because here we are. Mark Sargent, welcome to the Neutral Zone.
Thank you very much, DJ Grom. It's a pleasure to be here in Quark's Bar with you and all these lovely females.
Oh, this is going to be even better. Speaking of females, perhaps, ladies, you'd like to get a little closer to Mark Sargent. Maybe close enough to make him uncomfortable, right? Mark Sargent, I have to say, you got this theory that you've been promoting that the Earth is flat as a record. Please explain to my Romulans.
Not even is it just flat as a record, as you were saying, but it's enclosed. And this is where I plug real quick the website, enclosedworld.com. And really, for this audience, I gotta say, I'm gonna take the easy way out and say, look, it's not just an enclosed world. You might as well treat it like a holodeck because everybody knows what it is. And this, I'll try to say. This is what I'll try to get at. And that is the holodeck, the big one in Star Trek Next Gen, was just really a big square room. There was a problem with it, and that was it just was simply too small for multiple people. And in fact, I'm hoping that some of the people that are listening to this right now will quote the movie, the Star Trek Next Gen movie, where they tried to move a population off the planet by fooling them into a holodeck that was as big as a starship. And if you could do that, if you can make a holodeck as big as a starship, let's say you have advanced technology, what if you could make it as big as, let's say, 1,000 miles wide? Could you fool an entire population? Not just multiple cities, but could you fool millions of people into believing they were on a spherical world at that point? With a holodeck, as you guys know, you can do anything you want. You can do anything with the sky. You can do just about anything with the ground. So again, that's the question I'm really putting out there. If you can build a room, if you have a structure that's big enough and can simulate a round world, could you do it? And the theory, what I have found over the last 6 months, well, actually, I started last summer doing this, as you guys heard in the intro. What I've really found is all the evidence points to not only is it possible to fool the population of an entire world, but it's likely. It could have very easily been done to us, and we didn't know it. And that's why I was trying to put forward I put forward really two questions. One was a theory, which I was hoping to get disproven, which was if the authority figured it out, by that I mean the governments, the super rich, and the royals, if they figured out that we were in some sort of giant building, some giant enclosed structure back in 1956, one, would they tell anybody? But the big question I put out there back in February was, and honestly, I really did not think it was going to get this far. I thought that someone would eventually. I was hoping someone would punch holes in this thing and just light me up, and find the magic bullet, and that is show me, because the burden of proof is on the other side now. Show me how you think we are on a sphere, how you think we are on a globe, and everyone's going to do that knee-jerk reaction, which is, do you know because you know? Because you remember you had a globe in your classroom in first grade when you were 6 years old? Or do you know because you saw the photo from NASA in 1972? Because up until, 4 weeks ago, there was only one picture of the Earth from space in sunlight ever taken by anybody. And the fact that NASA even released it, take a look. They say, oh yeah, by the way, we finally released the second photo from space in 43 years. How is that even possible? How is that even possible? I'm saying it's not just a simulation. It is it might as well be a Hollywood backlot studio. It is a full-blown building, and everyone fell for it, and the cracks are finally starting to show. The internet hive mind, including all you fine green people here that I'm seeing, The Internet Hive Mind is figuring this out. The detection, they miss nothing. Again, for those people, and you guys, anyone that's in this room are big movie people. Everyone knows about MovieMistakes.com and all the other movie sites. If a coffee cup moves from one side of the table to the other without the actor moving it in one scene, they're going to catch it. They catch everything. And they're starting to catch the stuff that's going on. Everything with the ISS footage, the lack of the pictures from the moon, the lack of any astronaut making a 180-degree turn with the camera rotating. What's happening in Antarctica? Why can't anybody go in Antarctica? The planes in the southern hemisphere. All these things add up. And they keep pointing to the same thing, that we're in a giant enclosed structure. And if you guys want to call it, if it's easier for you, normally I'd throw in the Truman Show reference. But, for this crowd, the holodeck, that's probably the best reference. If you believe in the holodeck, if you think that's technologically possible, then you can't ignore this. You can't ignore that if a giant room holodeck was built, that you couldn't be fooled by it, especially if you were born into it.
Well, to back you up, I'd like to point out in the way you're going, Moriarty, Data's evilest nemesis, for lack of a better term, ultimately was fooled into a cube-sized holodeck where he's free to explore the entire universe.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, excellent point. I remember that episode where he was fooled at the very end, and he was put into an infinite hard drive that he could, he could spend lifetimes. Now, who knows how long he'd actually spend in there? But he was fooled. And in fact, the scene that was right after that was when Picard was walking out of the room, and he thought he was still in a just briefly, he thought he was still in on the holodeck, and that was the whole premise. That was the whole premise of the show, that Moriarty fooled everybody into thinking they were actually in the Enterprise when they were on a holodeck. And by the way, I'm kind of glancing at the chat stuff on the left-hand side, and one of your people says, isn't this vaguely the plot of The Matrix? Absolutely it is. The Matrix stole from stuff, the same as the 13th Floor. The Matrix and the 13th Floor took the stuff straight out of Next Gen, as far as the holodeck.
Well, that's my buddy Raktor. He's the drunken Klingon in the corner with the scowl. What I'd like to point out to my buddy Raktor is we're going to have to back you up a little bit, Mark Sargent, because none of these people know what you're talking about, so they're a little freaked out. So I've watched your movies, which I will explain. It's called Flat Earth Clues, and you can find it on YouTube. It's started out as 1. Now you went up to at least, it's not 15 yet, is it?
No. It's the intro plus 11 so far, so 12.
12, okay. You avoided unlucky 13.
Yeah,
that's
so
good.
far. Yeah.
I'd like to point out that Mark Sargent has done successfully 29 former interviews. So this interview, by the way, is interview number 30. What do you think about that, Mark Sargent?
Interview 30 is a good number. It's a great number, and I am honored that I could do interview 30 in Quartz Bar with the illustrious DJ Grom.
Which interview did I shoot for, by the way, if you remember?
You were shooting for 33.
Yes, that would have been 33. That is an inside joke here in the neutral zone. So please explain to my Gromulans why they can't just up and head to Antarctica. Got
it. Now, again, I will keep trying to reference it again, because it's hard not to, that I'm standing in Grom's bar, surrounded by green women, and one purple one. You can't. If a holodeck is big enough, the problem is, even if you make a holodeck 1,000 miles wide, or a giant room 1,000 miles wide, eventually there are edges, and human beings, or Klingons, or Romulans, or Ferengi, or whoever you want. Everybody is. It's no different than a wildlife preserve, and that is, you can put animals in a wildlife preserve, and if it's big enough, they don't care about the edges. But human beings are very, very curious. We're very inquisitive. We will try to find the edges, and if we find the edge of this place, we're going to be obsessed with it. That's all we're going to care about, because at that point we want to know everything about the edge. Who made the edge? Why are we in it? What's the purpose? the question just keeps snowballing. You know, what can we do to appease the makers of the Edge? And in a flat model, in a giant, in this case, we'll call it a giant circular room, a giant stadium, as it were. We'll call it like a stadium holodeck. The edges would have to be protected, meaning there's two things there. One, you'd have to create natural reinforcements to keep people away from the edge naturally. The first thing you would want to do is decrease the cold temperature. So in this case, you would take, I'll give you an example because most people are probably having a hard time visualizing what the world would look like. You put your hand on the North Pole on a globe and you flatten the globe. All the continents spread out, but Antarctica stretches around the entire outside edge like a giant ring of ice. And that would be the first negative reinforcement. So no matter where you go on this world, eventually you're going to get towards Antarctica. The temperature is going to keep dropping. You're not going to want to go into it. Icebergs start forming at, 15 degrees roughly in salt water. You're not going to want to get anywhere near those icebergs if you're in a ship. You reach Antarctica, and you have cliffs that go 200 feet straight up. And then once you can get over that, then you've got, the land, it's a really unique continent. It slopes up to 2 miles high to 10,000 feet and plateaus, out. And that's altitude sickness at 10,000 feet for a lot of people. And even if you could get up there, unfortunately, the powers that be have made Antarctica completely sealed off from everybody. The Antarctic Treaty was put in effect in 1959. It was signed by every nation that becomes economically viable, and you cannot go there. It's protected, literally, you guys can look this up, it's protected by the Antarctic Defense Force, which, multinational military, state-of-the-art technology. They fly fighter planes along the Antarctic coastline. Who, for what end? Nobody's going there. Why are you protecting the Antarctic coastline? No corporation in the world, no corporation at all, doesn't matter how much money you make, is allowed to do business in Antarctica. They haven't been since the beginning. No corporation has ever done it, and that treaty isn't even up for debate until 2040. And so you can't go there. It's sealed off. So that would be the first edge you would want to get rid of, is the Antarctic edge.
And if you plant your humans in the center of a bucket, I liken it to a record player where the spindle goes would be the North Pole. Everything's around that. The edge of the record is all a big ice bucket. In the bucket, you put salt water, which people can't drink. You pointed that out. People can't drink it, so they got to bring their own water. Then when they get to the edge, they got to bring their own air.
And even if you could, again, and the saltwater thing is a great thing. Most people don't understand. If you design a world like this, if it is built, you have to slow people down from exploring. That's one of the key things you do. And adding a 3% salt solution to the oceans, that's brilliant. Whoever came up with that is just freaking awesome, because humans cannot drink salt water. For any extent. I mean, you can drink a little bit of it, but you can't survive on a sea voyage. So you have to literally bring fresh water with you on sea voyages. That slows down your explorations by 90-something%, because you have to turn back before you die of thirst. It's unbelievable. But once you get down to Antarctica, if you can even get past all the physical barriers, there's now government barriers in place. The Antarctic Treaty, which, again, and now there's an environmental treaty. People say, well, the Antarctic Treaty, it's all about environmental stuff. No, there's no indigenous plant life. There's no indigenous animal life. It is a hostile. It might as well be an alien planet. There's nothing to protect out there. Plus, Greenpeace wasn't even invented until 1971. They weren't created until then. So 1959, environmentalism wasn't even a word. So don't even tell me that you're trying to protect the penguins.
Please explain to my Gromulans in as clear and concise words as possible. Some of them are idiots. Most are pretty smart, but occasionally there's a slow one. Can you explain to them the problems with the southern flights?
The southern flights, you bet. The southern flights are very, very interesting. In fact, that was how I really got into it last year, which, a German guy that had put a video on YouTube. It was all in German, and he had said, look, there's the southern routes are really, really screwed up. You really got to take a look at these things. And I didn't think much of it at first, but then I started staring at it, and the big thing was when you're trying to fly, I'll give you the two big examples here. If you're trying to fly from anywhere in South America to anywhere in Australia, there should be nonstop flights. It's a straight shot across the South Pacific Ocean. If anybody's got a globe in front of them, or if you want to pull up Google Earth, straight shot across the South Pacific Ocean. 12 hours. Nobody's airspace you have to mess with if you're going like from Sydney to Rio or something like that. It's an easy thing. But all the connections, but not, first of all, 95% of the flights in the Southern Hemisphere, you have to make connections. In the Northern Hemisphere, that's not true. We can make nonstops anywhere we want. It just that depends how much money you want to pay and what time of day you want to go. You can always get nonstop flights from somewhere to somewhere. But in the Southern Hemisphere, it's really hard. One, there's only like maybe 5 nonstops in the entire Southern Hemisphere. And there are certain capital cities, especially between anywhere near South America and Australia, there's some capital cities you can't get nonstops, no matter how much money you pay. So I was looking at those nonstop flights, looking at the connection flights, and they were going to really weird places. So, like, for example, if you're going from Sydney to Rio, I'll just keep using those, why in the world would it bounce you off the Middle East? It was bouncing you off a lot of different places that didn't make sense. It would always go into the Northern Hemisphere, take these weird arcs up in the Northern Hemisphere, then come back down, almost doubling the distance that you should travel. And I thought that was really odd. And I go, okay. But then somebody pointed out to me, a guy from England, Lawrence, as a matter of fact, a great guy. He helped me build Clue 7 and Clue 9. He showed on a flat map that when you're going, why for example, here's a connection for you. When you're going from Sydney, Australia to Rio, why are you connecting through San Francisco or Los Angeles or Dallas? But when you put it on a flat map, it turns into a straight line. And that doesn't make any sense. The odds of that happening are pretty remote. So I'm going, okay, this doesn't make sense. I'm not completely on board yet. So, and people kept saying, well, though, there's these non-stops. There's like Qantas Flight 64. I had that flight sent to me probably 150 times. Qantas Flight 64, which was from like Santiago, Chile to Auckland, New Zealand. They're going, how does this nonstop exist? So I sat down and I opened up, because the technology we have is pretty good. I mean, it's not as good as Starfleet, but it's good. And what I did was he opened up something called planefinder.net. There's also Plane Tractor and Flight Aware and Flight Radar. But I used planefinder.net, and I was watching in real time planes in the Southern Hemisphere flying, around. And I noticed that when any plane in the Southern Hemisphere leaves the land, when they're over the land, everything's fine. But when they go over the ocean, maybe even 100 miles, 200 miles, they disappear. They blink out, and they do not come back until just before touchdown, maybe less than an hour before touchdown. They reappear miraculously, the GPS system kicks back in, and they land. Up until that point, all those hours that they're over the water, those planes are not being tracked whatsoever. They completely drop off the GPS system. And the GPS system, as anyone knows and want to do their history, stands for Global Positioning System. It is a Department of Defense, United States government, built in 1995, very comprehensive system. The United States doesn't do anything small. It's a global system. So why do they have these massive gaps? You can go on the site right now. The Indian Ocean, the South Atlantic Ocean, and the South Pacific Ocean are empty. There are no flights down there. Any planes you see that may be on there, if you click on them, they have no coordinates. It always says approximated or estimated. And the question comes down to, people were asking me, what do you think's happening? I go, well, either they're turning them off deliberately to hide the routes, to hide the map, the true shape of the map, or they're turned off because they have no coverage, that there is no satellite coverage over there, because there might not be any GPS satellites. It may all be ground-based, and everything seems to be leading up to that everything that we do that says that's being handled from the sky is actually ground-based, and they've been lying about literally everything. So that's my... Go ahead.
No, that's great. That's a lot to swallow.
Sorry.
Some of the things, because like I said, you did 29 interviews, so you did the gambit. You've been all over the internet,
Yeah.
Talking about this, and of course, I came across it because I heard you on George Noory. Now, now that's talking to millions and millions of people. Take us there and tell what was going through your head.
Oh, with the George Noory thing?
Yeah.
That was a weird interview, and most people, you'll get an exclusive on this one, most people don't understand what happened there. And that was, because this is the conspiracy world, this is the topic that's been going out there, since February. It's like he's just lighting up the conspiracy world. Again, I have no idea why, and I am humbled to be a part of it. But I get a call from George Norrie's producer, and she's asking me, she's going, okay, give me your pitch. And I go, that's her opening line on the phone call. And I go, what are you talking about? She goes, you got something. What are you talking about? I was going, wait, you haven't even listened to the clues yet? And she goes, no, what are the clues? I was going, how do you even know to talk to me? How are you calling me? And she said, well, we've had people, like, a lot of stations. We have people writing in saying the guy you should interview is this. And she hadn't bothered to even do the research yet. So I gave her my 60-second pitch, and she's going, oh, okay, yeah, this might be good. And then I get on with George, and then when they call it Coast to Coast AM, they're not kidding. I didn't even start taking freaking phone calls until, 2 a.m. or something like that? It was brutal, and I'm out Mountain Time Zone. It would have been like, if I was on the East Coast, it would have been like 4 a.m. So I get on, and George didn't even know what to do. He honestly, and he said on air, you probably heard it, he said, he goes, look, I thought my producer was messing with me. I thought this was a joke. And so he was just kind of rolling with it, kind of like maybe I'd be doing a parody or something. And I wasn't kidding, which is why I said in the very first clue, I said, look, this is not a joke. I wish some days it was a joke. I really, really do. Because I never, ever would have thought I'd be doing this in 2015. I would have laughed anyone out of the room last year. If you would have brought up to me, said, oh yeah, let's talk about flat Earth or an enclosed system, I would have absolutely laughed you out of the building. And now here I am, 30 interviews later. And this thing's just, it keeps expanding and expanding because the ratio of people, the people that are being brought into this versus the debunkers right now is like 3-1, 4-1. And I'll take those odds any day of the week. Any day of the week.
What I wanted to point out to my Gromulans, Raptor has a question just to play devil's advocate. Yeah. What would governments gain by hiding all this? But first, I'd like to point out Mark Sargent had the flat Earth community turn on him and attack him for his comments. So I want you guys to know he's not spearheading.
No, I was ostracized briefly. I mean, it's not so bad anymore, but there were certain flat Earth leaders that didn't like the fact that I was talking about it in an enclosed system world. But I'll get to Raktor's questions in there. Does he know Klingon? So if I say Kapla.
Oh, he does.
Oh, okay. Hey, nice seeing you, Raktor. So here's the deal. By the way, I was kind of ostracized a little bit by the flat Earth community because I wasn't following the exact model that other people were. And look, we don't know. In the flat Earth group, there still isn't a perfect consensus of exactly what we're looking at. All we're saying, again, why the movement is growing so quickly, is that all Canadian can agree on is not a globe. We know that much. We know that the government and NASA has been hiding that since 1958. We don't know. There's something about the world they do not want to show us. I mean, we could be on somebody's freaking coffee table, under a heat lamp for all we know. But what we do know is it's not a sphere. But as far as his question, as far as why would anyone care, why would you hide it? Oh, there's a couple really, really big reasons for that. The biggest, and I'm not necessarily going to pick on religion here, but there would be a massive religious shift, meaning every major religion in this world, and I said this in one of the clues, but I'll give you the Reader's Digest version, which is Buddhism, Judaism, Hinduism, Islam, and Christianity. Those big religions, everyone's been looking for the Holy Grail, for lack of a better term, because everybody's got their own thing. Everybody's been looking for a mystical artifact, something that proves intelligent design. An enclosed system, if you have a wall, if you have a barrier, if this place has limits that we can walk up to, limits that maybe we can touch, maybe we can't, but at the very least we can see or we know that we can't get past, that screams intelligent design. And science would have a really, really hard time with that because religion has been holding on to that card for a long, long time. And they would come back and say, look, we've known this forever. This has been in our books forever, and science has been kicking us around for centuries. So, and science would take quite a bashing. Think about this. I'll give you the other ones, and that is every university in every country in the world, anybody that has an astrophysics department or an astronomy department, those things are gone. Those things are gone overnight. Geology, hydrology, archaeology, any other science, physical science, they have to be retooled to account for the new model. This is very, very disruptive. Not only that, but we all become, I'm not kidding, this is a kumbaya moment, we all become part of one family, part of one group. We're all in the same boat. Do we really go to war? What happens to the war industry at that point? What happens to hate crimes, racism, sexism? Does anybody keep doing these things if all of a sudden we realize that we may be under the microscope, for lack of a better term? So a lot of things would change. And if there's one thing I have learned about the power that be, otherwise known as the authority, they like the status quo. They don't like to change things if they can help it. If they do, if things have to change, they're going to hold on to the bitter end. And that means from 1958 till now, or actually about 1956 until now. And now it's starting to change. Seems to be some sort of 100th monkey effect going on, or the internet detection rate. I don't know exactly what it is, but there seems to be a paradigm shift, an awakening, and they're going to deal with it one way or the other. I don't know which way they're going to go, but yeah, everything's going to change when this happens. Yeah, your daily life may not change right away, but overall, every community, every city, every country is going to be affected drastically.
To tell you, I got to tell you something, because what you're saying is it's like a gerbil cage, a big snow globe. A snow globe is what I like to think of it as.
There you go.
So if we're stuck in a snow globe and know it, we're going to freak. If we don't know it,
yeah, ignorance is
cool, right?
Well, ignorance is bliss, absolutely. And if you want me to use the Matrix method, I can as well. And that is, ignorance is bliss. If you don't know, again, we for whatever reason, this whole the part of the reason we've been set up here is to act naturally. That's why the barrier's been hidden. That's why the sky's been hidden. That's why NASA militarized space. It kept any private sector from going up there. That's why no country gets to go to Antarctica. We're acting naturally. We'll act like we normally would. If we find out about this, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to freak out. Not necessarily, maybe just lose their minds or anything, but there's going to be this weird wow moment, and then people are going to have to reevaluate their lives and figure out what's important to them. Where are they going to go? I mean, I know there's going to be entire churches that are going to start marching on the ice because they're going to want to see it for themselves. They're going to want answers from the government and the authority, and people, there's going to be a lot of finger pointing. And from everything I can tell so far, the sacrificial lamb in this case is going to be NASA. They're going to be thrown under the bus if this happens. I know it. It's just being set up. It's why the space shuttle program was shut down. It's why the ISS footage is so terrible. It's why they're subcontracting stuff out to Virgin Galactic and SpaceX. It's a setup. I know it's a setup, but for what bigger purpose? That's the plot line I'm dying to know. So anyway.
Sorry, Mark. What I was going to say is I, too, have followed every conspiracy you can think of. I've looked into. I couldn't find anything new about Roswell, so I wasn't watching that anymore. Yeah. Bigfoot, while intriguing, was running in different directions. No proof. No hunter ever ran over one, Yeah. Nobody just, smacked one with their truck, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't, whatever. But you're right. I stayed away from the flat-earth because that's crazy talk.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that lunatics on the side of the road talk about.
Yeah, it is crazy, and that's how good it is, because it is the one thing. I mean, I'm not kidding when I have said I have talked to people that fully believe that every member of the royal family are lizards, and they say it with a complete straight face, and I will say flat Earth, and they will laugh hysterically and roll their eyes and just wave me off and leave. They'll just walk out of the room. And that's how well done this is. I'm not kidding when I said I was physically embarrassed to click on this. And I looked at every conspiracy there was. I looked at, you name it, not just the garden varieties, but even the fringe stuff. I had even come up with stuff on my own. And I saw this thing and I said, this is ridiculous. But the thing was, I couldn't figure out why I thought that. I was like, I had looked at stuff where, I went to Comic-Con for one of my vacations a few years back, just me, just going down there, hanging out at Comic-Con. I'm about as nerdy as it gets. I'm about as open-minded as it gets. Big Star Trek fan. And this was one of those concepts that physically, I had a physical reaction to. And then when I finally started digging into it, I was like, holy crap. I didn't realize. It was like the P.T. Barnum saying was, some of the people can be fooled, all the people can be fooled some of the time. And that's this case. Everybody bought it. Everybody got fooled by it. Now, it took a little help, by the government. I think naturally we were probably going to find it by ourselves. The private sector was probably going to find it in the 60s, maybe the 70s at the latest. But the government figured it out first, and of course, like anything, if they were the first ones to find the secret, like the Ark of the Covenant and the Holy Grail, are they going to show people? If you knew the world wasn't shaped the way it was, and put yourself in their shoes, if you've been telling people for the last 500 years that the globe is what it is, and you find out that it's not, do you have a sit down with them and say, oh yeah, by the way, it's not a globe, it's actually something else? They're not going to do it. They're not going to take that chance. There's too much risk involved. They don't want to the rebuilding process. Plus, heck, they may be under orders. It could be one of those things that whoever built this place may be told. Members of the high-ranking, elite that said, oh yeah, by the way, don't ever tell your population, because if you tell your population, we're going to show up and deal with this one way or the other. So the plot lines going with this thing are intriguing. I love where they're going.
Well, Mark, I'm going to tell you, I looked into some crazy conspiracy theories, okay? And I'm going to name some to see if you've followed along the same path.
Okay.
Have you ever looked into shadow people?
Shadow people? I've heard of it, but go ahead. Give me your take on it.
Okay, you never looked into shadow people at all?
No, not shadow people, no. I've heard of it, but I didn't, it wasn't one of my favorites.
Okay, I had heard of it and never looked into it. Then I heard a guy really talking about it. It was the shadow people guy, right?
Yeah.
Then he mentioned that sometimes, and I haven't told my Gromulans this, okay? I haven't told anybody. He said that sometimes they don't just come as shadow people, they come as shadow spiders, okay? A lot of people have reported shadow spiders. Now, as I said, I never told anybody this, but I'm telling you.
Okay.
When I was a kid, I had what was called a fever, right? And I saw a gigantic black pulsing spider on my kitchen wall, and I freaked. I was a little kid, right? Like little tiny Gromulan, I freaked out. But when that guy told me when he was talking, I totally saw that spider again, and I know that wasn't fake. That wasn't just me hallucinating like they told me, because I was a little kid, right? I asked my movie, I asked my old man. They didn't want to. They just said, "Oh, you were a little kid, you were sick, you were crying."
Wow.
But it was freaky. So what I'm getting to point it out to my Gromulans is, yes, the flat Earth thing is nuts, but let me point out it's also the only conspiracy theory that they disprove to little kids.
Yeah.
They put a globe in the class and they tell people 500 years ago people thought it was flat and they were crazy.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's an excellent point, DJ Grom. It is the only conspiracy we debunk to children. It is the only one. We do not tell children, we don't even bring up JFK or Pearl Harbor or the Battleship Maine or the Alamo or any of the modern conspiracies. Or World Trade Center. We don't bring these things up to kids. We bring up the globe, though, every single time. And it is so easy. You just put a globe in a classroom when you're 6 years old, and by the time you get out of school, whenever you leave, you are indoctrinated. And if you're unfortunate enough to actually make it through undergrad and postgrad work, maybe get your PhD, you're in about as deep as you can get. You're never coming out of that hole. But it is amazing to see, again, that's why people's reactions are the way they are. When you bring this up to people, and it's only those two words. Again, I can say enclosed world doesn't faze you. I can talk about Truman Show all day long. Not going to faze you. Second I say flat Earth. And I've talked to people, I've introed people where I talk about Truman Show for 15 minutes. The second I say flat Earth, they physically get upset. I've had people on the radio who have called in and said, how dare you? How dare you tell me the world isn't what I think it is. And I'm going, look, if you like the sphere, and I like the sphere too, I think the globe is a really, really cool model, very, very slick. But you're only going to hold on to it for so much longer because the population is starting to wake up to this. Everybody has been looking for the next big lie. The conspiracies over the last 10, 15 years have taught us this. Everyone's kind of, the internet has gotten really savvy. And it's like, okay, I'll get this. It's like the next big lie, I'll get it, I'll totally get it. And it's like, oh yeah? Because the next big lie was under your feet the entire time, and you missed that one too. And, that I wasn't embarrassed, but, when I first saw it for myself, when I first got got my head around, I was going, wow, that is really, really good. But at the same time, anyone that gets mad, anyone that tries to debunk this, anyone that gets upset, and nobody, no one's tried to kill the messenger or anything with me. I empathize with them. I go, look, I was you. I absolutely tried to debunk this thing myself for months and months. Could not do it. Prove to me it's a globe. Show me the pictures of the Earth. Show me the video. Show me anything. They've had hundreds of years to build up stacks and stacks of evidence. It's not there. Now the flat Earth is winning. And it's winning fairly easily, and the mainstream can do nothing to stop it, because if the mainstream even addresses it right now, in any forum, they're going to expose more people to it. It's like a weird flu or a virus that just keeps spreading.
Mark, you could be right, because I've seen your things steering the agenda, shall we say?
Yeah.
There was only one picture of the Earth right up until a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, absolutely. NASA. Yeah, go ahead.
That was your big talking point. That was one of the big things. Where's another picture? They were all composites, is what you call them.
Composite images, yeah. There is no pictures of the Earth from space. Just look it up, the Earth from space. Up until a couple of weeks ago, there was only one shot. It was always the 1972 shot from Apollo 17. And then suddenly, there's this new satellite that was supposedly sent 7 or 8 years ago. Whether or not that's true, we have no idea. That's hovering at about 1 million miles, a cool 1 million miles, because it's easy for people to understand. And it's now taking pictures of the Earth. And it just took a picture of the Earth recently with the moon flying in front of it, which is one of the worst collections of shots I've ever seen in my life. I'm serious. A 12-year-old in audio-visual class could come up with better stuff.
What I didn't like about the picture of the moon flying across is the moon rotates with the Earth theoretically in a tidally locked picture, right? That's why we see one side. That moon that flew past was a sprite just flying across the screen, because it didn't rotate whatsoever. You could tell because of that big black mare, the only mare on the back. And instead, we only see, if you see two sides, right? We never see the side of the side. We see the front, everyone knows, or the back, no one knows. It's never the side of the side.
Yeah, absolutely. It is just mind-boggling. And again, this is the only conspiracy I know where the authorities trying to address it. With every other conspiracy, it's like they just ignore people and maybe try to divide them up and get people to kind of fight amongst themselves. But with the flat Earth thing, I've never seen anything like this, where NASA's actually taking action to try to do damage control. And they're just making it worse. They're just throwing gasoline onto the fire. And because
they also, I don't know if you know this one, but they also put out a 360-degree turnaround virtual of the ISS, because you said they never did it.
Yeah, but it's virtual.
Of course.
It's virtual. It's not a real shot. And what I mean was, in fact, I'm not going to take the credit.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, the Max Malone from his conspiracy channel, he mentioned it because he was a big anti-Apollo guy, and he goes, find me any astronaut footage where the astronaut is holding the camera and he just turns around. He just turns around with the camera running. No astronaut's ever done this, even on accident. And it's brilliant, because you would have thought, at the very least on the moon, because they took moon shots, they were running around in moon buggies, at the very least they would have taken an accidental turnaround. But you can't if it's soundstage, because there is no fourth wall in the soundstage. You can't turn around. And it's true. No, every once in a while someone will send me a video, it's a shot, but no astronaut's holding anything, or it's virtual. And I go, look, an astronaut has to hold the frickin' camera and turn around. And what I can't figure out is, look, I know they've got the money to do it. We've all watched Gravity and Mission to Mars and Red Planet and all those, Solaris and all those fun space movies. Or heck, 2001, which was back in the 60s. spend the money, fake it. It's almost like they want to get caught, and that's the part that's I'm scratching my head. Is okay, what's up your sleeve? That's the part that I'm still running into.
Well, you must have saw the word sex written in the clouds, correct?
Don't get me started on that. That took all of, I think, 2 hours for the internet to find. It wasn't me, obviously somebody, all they did was literally took the new Blue Marble shot, which was, released 3 weeks ago with all that cloud cover. They turned it upside down, turned it on its head, and in the upper right-hand corner, written Disney style, because the Disney animators would sneak that into videos.
Completely Disney style.
Yeah. They put in the letters, all caps, SEX, right next to each other. It wasn't even like it was off center or spread out or anything. It was like written in the clouds, in dark. So you had clouds, but written inside the clouds was sex. And it's like, really? That's how you're going to do it? You're not. That's the best. You're going to encrypt it. You're just going to make it upside down. Oh my God! I don't know who snuck that in there, but that was brilliant.
It was interesting. So, two things I want to point out because I think we're losing my gromulins. The Bible does point out in the Bible it says we're on a flat earth with a dome over us, a firmament, which is not necessarily a dome. It is the sky over us. It's in the Bible. That's the first thing. Yeah. And the second thing is it actually works better with my own views of time travel because I always thought, okay, if I could go back in time, 6 months, the Earth's on the other side of the sun, I'm dead. And I could never figure it out until your flat model. And then it was like, of course, I'm still here.
Yeah. Let me address the firmament first because that's a very interesting thing. Yeah, in Genesis 1:7, if it's 1:6, please forgive me, anyone out there listening like my mother, that says the firmament, a barrier that separates the water above and the water below when this place was created. Very, very interesting. Also interesting, a firmament reference was, you guys are big space guys, Wernher von Braun, the co-creator of NASA, the ex-Nazi scientist, on his headstone, he's got his name, when he was born, when he died, and one other thing, and that was Psalms 19:1, which talks about the firmament, how the firmament shows God's handiwork. And I thought that was really, really interesting. It's like, what? Really? A rocket scientist? And he's putting a quote about the firmament? Was that his little, call out, his little confession from the grave? Probably, in my opinion. But when it comes to, what was the other question you had?
The time travel.
Oh, yeah, time travel. That was brought up. That wasn't even me. That was a guy guy from Canary Cry Radio that came up with it. And he goes, time travel would be a lot easier in an enclosed system because you don't have to deal with a lot of motion. If the planet isn't spinning if it's spinning on its axis and spinning around the sun and flying through, and the solar system isn't moving at the same time, it makes time travel so much easier because you're just dealing with one point in space. You just have to, you just beam from there to there. It takes so much math out of the equation. Time travel becomes infinitely simpler by comparison.
I got two important questions. The first one, it goes along. Mr. Johnson asked, where do you get most of your research? But before we do that, you said in an interview that you felt you had to make those clues.
Yeah.
Like you had a muse bugging you, keeping you awake. Go back to that and please explain to my gromulins, because you didn't elaborate.
You bet. Back when I was looking at this thing, so I started looking at this thing last summer, and it was kind of rumbling around in my head for a while, and I was going, yeah, it's pretty good. And then, 3:30 in the morning on February 10th of this year, 2015, I woke up, and I literally could hear myself doing the narrative. If the narrative was in my head. Not only that, but I could almost see the paragraphs that I was going to be writing. All the research, I'd already done my research, and all the research, this is no secret stuff. All the stuff you can find between Wikipedia and YouTube and other general places, all the information's out there. None of it's secret. I didn't have to uncover some buried chest. But anyway, I woke up and I was like, holy smokes, what the heck's going wrong with me? I've got it. I call it the Jerry Maguire moment, but I had to get this thing down. I mean, I felt like I was going to lose my sanity if I did not get this thing down on paper. So I sat down at the computer, literally typed out the entire first clue, and I did it in stages. So I did the entire introduction and typed it out, then I said, okay, I'll just do the narrative. So I, got the microphone on, did the narrative. It's like, okay, I gotta hook this up to a slideshow. So I grabbed a whole bunch of open source slides from the internet, put them into Windows Live Movie Maker, a free program, put it all together, did a little bit of editing, and that was it. And then once day one happened, the same thing happened. Night after night, I just kept waking up. I just remember vividly in the shower I'm saying, oh yeah, this is what I'm going to cover next, and I'm going to organize this. I didn't have to rewrite anything. That was the weirdest part. And when I was writing it, I always said to myself, because I would listen to it a few times when I was done, before I put it up on YouTube. I said, if I get to a point where it sounds completely ridiculous and it's not going to work, I'm just going to throw away the clue. And I didn't throw away anything. And I did that for 8 days straight, basically the intro and all the first 7 clues. Then I took a little break, let my mind recharge, and then did 9, 10, and 11. And after 11, I said, okay, I'm going to take a break until I figure out where this thing's going. And I mean, I've still got 12. 12's in the books. 13, that's a secret. But it's been amazing. Yeah, it was. I say that it's not me. I mean, yeah, of course it was me doing it, but the research was me, but something else was guiding me. It was amazing. The process.
It's interesting you say that, because I interviewed a guy named Azrael St. Michael who ran a band. He said his songs, he didn't write the songs, they went to him and happened, okay?
Yeah.
So when you say that, it's the exact same thing he said, and I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it was so easy to do. It was almost effortless. In fact, the only effort was trying to get everything done in a single day. Done from the script to the narrative to putting the video together, making sure it sounded good. And I didn't even have anybody proof it. For the first 8, I didn't have anybody. I was the only person looking at it, so I was trying to be as objective as I could. But by the time I got, by the time I was up there, but let's put it this way: by the time I got clue 6 and clue 7 up there, the phone calls started rolling in. By the time I think I'd done like 8 or 9, the interviews started rolling in. And once those first few people started interviewing me, it didn't become taboo anymore. It started stacking on itself, where people are saying, well, if this guy interviewed him, I can interview him. And it just got bigger and bigger to where, I did Coast to Coast, which didn't make any sense because I didn't have a book. I didn't have a DVD. I didn't even have a website. They were actually giving me grief because they had nowhere to point their listeners to. So I had to go out and learn front-end programming just to build my own website to get that thing out there. And so now enclosedworld.com, which is all me, that's where I'm hosting everything.
And you're not selling a
I'm not selling anything. Well, I can't really. I really wanted to be, because I know the conspiracy world is really, really suspicious. And I had to make myself as available as possible. So I put my phone number out there, my real phone number, my email address, my home address at one point, although I'm going to be heading up to Whidbey Island in a bit, so I'm going to be there for a while. But that's in my bio anyway, my entire backstory going all the way back to childhood. So, and people look down on people that a little bit, depending on how you sell stuff. So if I was selling t-shirts or coffee mugs, yeah, they might be a little bit upset, but if I was selling a book, they give a little more crap. If I got a Fund Me page, I'd probably catch some grief a little bit. So yeah, I just tried to make myself as legitimate and as sincere and as transparent as I could.
Has it gotten you laid at all? Because I'm thinking this would totally turn off a female.
Thanks. Yeah, that's great. Considering I'm surrounded by dancing, beautiful green women and one purple one. No, it has not gotten me laid by beautiful females. No, it has not. As a matter of fact, but I haven't been looking either. This has been taking up quite a bit of my time, and I don't mind though talking. I believe it. Okay, all right. Let me backtrack. At least half of the phone calls I get and emails are from women, which is really strange because the conspiracy world isn't necessarily known for the female audience. And
not at all.
No, not at all. I mean, it might as well be a comic book convention, which, and I don't mind. It's nice, and I know part of it's because I make it as simple as possible and easy to digest as possible. It's just slideshows and a narrative. Really, really straightforward. But it has been really great to see. Again, I love the fact that there's a female audience to this conspiracy. I'm not going to take all the credit there. it's the message that's interesting because it's not threatening, it's not sinister, it's not like any other conspiracy. I still think it's a message of hope, and that is, if we learn, if everybody figures this out, if it becomes available to people that we all of a sudden all realize that where we are, we all do become one family, one community, one happy fleet, Starfleet, that is.
Well, it's true because I watch the conspiracy stuff all the time, and it is taken over, which is kind of funny because there's so much out there.
Yeah, and it drives people nuts. I love like the people that are just coming onto it. In fact, I'm not going to swear on here. But
you can. You can totally swear.
Oh, can I? They say, what's this flat Earth shit? They say, what's this about? And because people that are, why is everybody talking about this? People that are coming in from the outside, it's like they're coming into like a big conversation that they're not part of. And then once they figure out what the conversation is, they're going, what, are you kidding? How are you guys talking about this? And
that's exactly how that caller reacted. That guy who popped in, who was actually a pretty big guy.
Oh, yeah. That guy actually, I looked him up. He was part of a group that actually helps put on Paranoia Con down in Los Angeles, which is a conspiracy convention. And this guy, a guy that goes to conspiracy conventions, called into the show to make fun of it. I mean,
he went off on you. Yeah,
he was just freaking losing it, and to the point where he hung up in frustration because he just couldn't take it anymore. And he actually used the term, I will not suffer fools. And it's like, and I was like, man, look. I really tried to empathize with him. I said, look, I completely understand. People's first reactions to this are going to be either rolling your eyes or laughter or ridicule. I mean, look, if you don't laugh at this thing for the first 5 minutes, for the first 10 minutes, for the first hour, there's something wrong with you because it is ridiculous. But then after a while, this is the weird part, after you're done rolling your eyes and laughing, if you can stare at this long enough, you stop laughing. And then you start doing a double take going, no, it can't be. It can't be that I missed this. And then you have to understand, it's like, you didn't miss it. Everybody missed it. Nobody got it. Didn't matter how rich you were, how powerful you were, how beautiful you were, how influential. Nobody got this. Even the powers that be, even the authority, they had to go off ancient maps. They probably knew the secret. I know there were secret societies that knew this hundreds of years ago. But until the internal combustion engine was invented, there's nothing they could do about it. So even they had their doubts. It wasn't until the 50s that we know for sure. And if you want any proof of that, look at the UN flag. The UN flag, which is the flat Earth map, was created in 1946. That's when they had their suspicions. That's when Admiral Byrd was doing his expeditions down there, and he was pretty sure that. And by the way, it was the same year he did Operation High Jump. Pretty sure that that's when he was going to find it, and he didn't find it until 10 years later. But even they knew. So don't feel bad. Do not, again, laugh at this all you want. Joke about with your friends, but don't be surprised down the road that you're going to get sucked into the quicksand. It's pretty cool in here. Don't feel bad if you get pulled in.
It's been an interesting ride for you. I sent you some pictures of my Link Superior. Did you receive them?
I did, and I'm actually going to include them in the slideshow. And not just this slideshow, but all my slideshows. I picked out the top 9 or 10. I took out the ones of the people backpacking. But, Lake Superior and the very flat horizon that is on there. Did you want me to mention the Chicago skyline?
Sure. And mention the laser test, too, because that was fascinating.
For most people that are going to be out there, your first impression is going to be, we see the curvature of the Earth. And you say, oh, really? And they say, oh, yeah, I mean, I go up in airplanes, I see the curvature all the time. I go, fine. You've got the technology now. Go in with a camera, take a picture of your airplane window, go home, put it on your PC, your laptop, and then blow up that picture and then put a ruler or a piece of paper under it and tell me you still see a curve. You're not going to. No one has sent me a picture of an airplane. I've been asking people for months, send me a picture of an airplane shot where you see a curve from the airplane. You do not. You want to see it. And so then it's like, well, no, we know there's a curve because boats go over the horizon. We can see the holes disappear and then the mass, and it's like, really? Because there's a lot of really great videos out there. I'm going to quote Jeffrey Grupp, a great guy who's been doing research on it, who's been showing it's all refraction. If you want more proof of that, look at the Chicago skyline from the other side of the lake. 50 miles across the lake. 50 miles, and the curvature, and I'll explain this to you guys real easy. I'll give you the simple version of it. Curvature, if it's a globe, is 8 inches times every mile squared. So if it's 1 mile, it's 8 inches. If it's 2 miles, it's 2 times 2, which is 4, times 8 is 32. 3 times 3 is 9, times 8 is 72 inches. And so it keeps getting steeper and steeper. At 50 miles, that's about 1,700 feet. You should not see the Chicago skyline at all from the other side of that lake. And you are. And you do. And you see it all the time. And you not just see just the tops of the skyline. You see pretty much the whole skyline. And you're saying, okay, how is that possible? And everyone's going to say, oh, no, it's an illusion. It's an illusion. It's a mirage. You're not seeing it. Light's being bent. It's like, really? Okay, if light's being bent there, then light is also being bent on the ships. You can't have both. You can't say that Chicago skyline is an illusion and the ship is not. They either both have to be an illusion or they both not an illusion. You cannot pick and choose. And I choose that they're both not an illusion. You've got to see it for yourself. It's amazing. The curvature is not what you think it is. People are doing curvature tests every day. Just look up flat Earth curvature test and set the filter to this year. It's incredible, the stuff it's doing. That and, of course, the moon test, which is fascinating as well.
It's been okay. I got one more question, and this one is, you only briefly touched on it, but I really got to know Amelia Earhart, because I kind of looked into it. And if it was a flat Earth model. Maybe have you actually looked into this?
Yeah, you bet I did. There were people that emailed me that within the first month, and that was people that don't know who, if you're not old enough to remember who Amelia Earhart is, or even heard of her, she was the famous female aviator who circumnavigated the world, and she took a lot of long-distance flights. She was a very, very good pilot. And she got lost and presumed drowned over one of the oceans. Now, what's interesting is, and this was years and years ago, way before GPS went online in 1995. I mean, decades before that. And if she was on a flat map, some of those distances, the maps would be wrong. Now, the continents would still be kind of laid out the same, but if you're looking, and again, the map what we're looking at, you can either look at the UN flag or look at the azimuthal equidistant map. But the flat map, the distances are wrong, especially when it comes to the oceans, especially in the southern hemisphere. The scale is all wrong. We don't even know exactly what the scale is. But if she was based her fuel, if she tried to cut it close and try to get to an island, maybe a refueling thing, and she was going off a spherical model, she could have easily screwed that up and just had to ditch in the ocean, and that was the end. She could be still on an island now, like Tom Hanks in Castaway.
Yeah. It was interesting because I tried to follow the path, right? And where she was trying to hit was like Hawaii, but the Pacific Ocean's huge, and on the flat Earth model, it's actually a little different. So.
Yeah, it is. It's the flat Earth model. As a matter of fact, we have the approximate layout of what we think the continents are, but as far as the inches per mile, the scale, nobody knows for sure. We can approximate, but how do we know yet? And the only people that know for sure, they're the gatekeepers. They're the ones holding the keys. They're the ones that are protecting space and protecting the Antarctic. And up until now, they're not giving anybody access.
And feeding us all the pictures.
There you go.
Mr. Johnson wants to know, where do you get most of your research data?
Most of my research data I get off the internet. I didn't have to crack a single book. Of course, most of the stuff is online anyway. If you look in the clues, most of the stuff I either got from Wikipedia or some pedia somewhere. The research is out there. I didn't have to go to any fringe sites. As a matter of fact, for example, like the azimuthal equidistant map, when I did number 3, I'll give you a perfect example, clue 3 of the map makers. When I went into, all that research was really based off of everything that was from Wiki, meaning the Wiki list of map projections that was given by the U.S. government, that tied to the USGS, which is the United States Geological Survey, that tied to the UN flag, that tied to Al Biruni, the guy that came up with the UN flag model to begin with, the actual perspective of it was actually invented 1,000 years ago by a Persian scientist, which NASA named a moon crater after. Nobody even talks about that. Or the fact that the azimuthal map is identical to the flat Earth map in UN flag in every shape and way, but the azimuthal map, which is used by the U.S. government in their catalog, is perfectly legit. But the flat Earth map is totally insane, and nobody should ever look at it because they should be institutionalized. It is wild. But yeah, all my information, all online, very, very easy to get. You can just type in, when you go through my clues, anything that I say, you can type in and just follow the trail. It's all there.
It wouldn't be fair if I didn't include my friend Mitch DeBitch's comment. He said you were pushing conspiracy pablum, and he referred to you as a snake oil salesman. So what do you say to people when they say right to your face, look, scholars suspected that the globe was found around 600 BC? What do you say to people like that?
I say there are so many myths in the Mayans, the Incans, the Vikings, every culture at one point. For the first 4,500 years of our civilization, fine, there were some fringe people every once in a while that had their ideas, but the majority, and I mean the majority of civilization as we know, the first 4,500, if our civilization goes back 5,000 years without the records breaking, first 4,500 years, everybody believed the same thing, and that was we were on a flattish disc with some sort of canopy, some sort of cover over the top of us, which was painted, that the stars and the planets were just a beautiful tapestry, and that the sun and the moon were, in some cases, these living entities, who knows about that, but that they were spinning around. You want to have fun? Yeah, look at the yin-yang symbol and put that on top of a flat Earth map and tell me that doesn't match up the solar and the lunar cycles almost exactly. Where did that symbol come from exactly? That's brilliant how that came up with. So no, none. The civilization, that's why it was such a revolution. That's why it was called the geocentric theory for the longest time. That the Earth was the center of the universe and everything revolved around us. Then it changed 500 years ago to heliocentric, which I think also was part of the process. I think we were supposed to think it was a globe for a while. Not just the authority, but the builders themselves. It bought them time. It bought them another 500 years. But now we've come to the point where it looks like it's going to flip back. I do not know why. And again, you don't want to buy it? Hey, fine, don't buy it. Hang on to the globe for a while. I can tell you right now, you type in Flat Earth in YouTube and you watch every day what's happening. This world is changing right now.
It's pretty interesting, Mark Sargent. Any final words for my Gromulans before I let them have music? They're starting to freak.
Oh, yeah, no worries at all. Before I go, thank you very much. I'm a big Star Trek fan. My favorite movie was First Contact. My second favorite movie was Wrath of Khan, the old version with Ricardo Montalban. I love Star Trek, and even though I don't remember all the 10 Commandments, I try to tell people this. I really only follow one rule, and that is treat others better than you treat yourself. The world will be a better place.
Well, thank you, Mark Sargent. Mark Sargent's website is enclosedworld.com. I will put the link in the chat channel. We're going to go to one song, and then I'll come back briefly to give you guys the old... we'll do requests. I'll play a few songs. You guys have been good. Thank you so much, Mark Sargent. You have a fantastic night.
Thanks, DJ Grom.